Hey, do you prefer to find the joy in life, or do you just want some help with that? If so, you're in the right place. So come on in and join the Joy Bunny clan. This is the My Slice of Life podcast. Welcome to the My Slice of Life podcast, where I am asking the question, what is so super about the supernatural? This week's episode is all about shadow beings. But before I get to that, I need your help. This, as you may have noticed, is a tiny little channel, and I need you to like and subscribe. It only takes a minute. Just takes a minute. Follow, subscribe, whatever it says. Please leave me a review. Give me a 5-star review. Spread the joy. It will really help me in the algorithms and help this show to grow and be found by other people, and that's what it's all about. So let's spread the joy. Please help me. I'm a one-woman band here. I don't have a team behind me helping me out, do everything. I'm doing it all myself, but I need your help. Thank you. Now, let's get back to the shadow beings. I have been doing a lot of research, as much as you can, on this. And I say that because nobody seems to know anything. Now, obviously, if I left it at that, there wouldn't be much of an episode. So I will share with you what I have managed to find out. The first main thing, really, that everybody can agree on is that there are different kinds of shadow people, and they're not all the same, apparently. A lot of people describe seeing a shape that is human, but you can't make out any discernible features on a face. They are being terrorized by these things. They get this feeling, this overwhelming feeling of dread, just this sense of absolute dread, and it's just a horrible feeling they can't shake off. And that feeling seems to remain while they see these things. Other people see a kind of a wispy, shadowy shape, not really as a person shape, if you know what I mean. It's kind of hard to define. But all the sites I've looked at, and I've looked at a few, they do seem to say, yeah, there's different kinds. The other thing all these sites seem to agree on is that the reports of shadow people are happening all over the world. It's not limited to just one place. Another one of those things that wasn't discussed very much, but reports are flying in thick and fast from everywhere for some reason. Are we just better at discussing these things? Are we better at accepting that other things are out there that we can't understand? Or are the sightings actually on the increase? Nobody seems to have the answer to that. A common theme of a shadow person, and I'm saying person this time, not shadow being, is of a shadow that is tall, dark, so it's not like a wispy see-through shape, it's quite dark, seems to be wearing a cloak or a hooded robe. That seems to be quite a common description that's been coming through. Another common description is what is called the Hat Man. Nobody's very clear from what I've been looking if this is actually a shadow being or a separate entity altogether. But the descriptions for this do have the commonality of, yes, it's a shadow figure, but wearing some sort of brimmed hat. He's typically described as having very little or no discernible features, although some witnesses claim that they can feel him staring at them, which sounds a bit unsettling to say the least. But one more very common description which keeps coming up time and time again is that the person will be sitting doing something, just maybe watching TV or reading a book, and they get this feeling just that something's moved, and they can just sense out the corner of their eye, and when they look up, they either don't see anything there, or they'll see something just dart back out the way as if it didn't want to be seen. That crops up time and time again in the reports of these encounters with these shadow beings. The last type of encounter that I've come across are ones where people say they are in bed and a shadow being is actually on top of them, either trying to choke them or seriously hurt them in some way. Again, there seem to be more and more reports of these as well. The strange thing I have found about all this is there are a few people who claim to be experts in this, as there always are. But the biggest thing that I have found is the number of theories, and it has to be theories because they don't actually know. So what are they? Like I mentioned earlier, they say there's different kinds where there's, the strong shadow shape, the wispy shape of a person, or just kind of a more blob kind of a shape. But what actually are these things? The word supernatural is thrown about, as is entity or spirit. Now, I did say there are a lot of theories out there, and these range from these things being spirits of deceased loved ones that are coming to visit for a short time, or some sort of benevolent spirit that is unknown to us, even a guardian angel. Now, these are the good descriptions that I'm giving you just now. There are also a lot of theories about these beings being malevolent in nature. In fact, I've seen some sites that say they are always malevolent, that nothing good ever comes from seeing one of these things. They couldn't back it up, but a lot of people do seem to think this way, that these shadow beings are just portents of evil or disaster and should be treated as such and therefore feared, because nothing good will ever come out of an experience with one of them. Theories about them being astral bodies. There's a guy called Jerry, I think it's Gross, he's an author. He has a theory that they are just people who are sleeping, and this is them in their astral body. So there's some sort of, they're travelling when they're actually asleep. According to him, we all do it. So that's one theory. Another theory is that what people are seeing are actually time travellers, but they can't manifest themselves physically, so all you see is a shadow. Are they interdimensional beings? That's another theory that's put out there, that maybe they're partly visible. We're not seeing all of them. We're seeing the vibration of something that is existing in another plane. Quite a few people are going along with the alien theory, and a lot of people actually go along the lines of, no, these things are just demonic. These are demons that people are seeing, and, it's as bad as it can get. So as you can see, there's a whole range there, really from angel to demon, and everything in between that you can possibly imagine. They don't seem to be communicating to everybody. There are a few people who are saying that they have some sort of telepathy or a dream, some even physical contact, but most of the reports that I've read don't have that. These seem to be just theories that people have. They're not really supported by evidence. A lot of people also think that they are just ghosts and that's the end of it. You've just seen a ghost in shadow form and that's it. Now, like I said earlier, these things are being discussed more and more now. They're being called shadow beings, shadow person, sometimes referred to as black mass, which I think is quite a good description, and I will tell you why a little later in the episode. But I did find out that shadow beings have been discussed in a number of religions, legends. There's stories about these things have been around for a long time. But in the Western culture, they didn't really come about apparently until Coast to Coast AM. They did a late night radio show, and they did a show in April 2001 when the host, who was Art Bell, interviewed a man who said he was a Native American elder and he had, encountered these things. And then a lot of people started phoning in saying, yes, I've seen one too. The word menacing comes up time and time again, and there are a lot of people saying that you have to protect yourself. You have to invoke the name of Jesus to get rid of these things. People give advice about ignoring the ghost, using humour, listening to them, trying to learn in case they are communicating with you, or simply just telling them to leave. But the skeptics will tell you that none of that is necessary, because it's just nothing more than sleep paralysis, or maybe the person's been on drugs, or it's just plain old imagination. I don't agree with that, and here's why. I've experienced this myself, and I've realised doing this podcast that I've had experiences with things that I just accepted, never thought much about it, didn't research it until I started doing these episodes. If you go back, you'll find a bonus episode I did for Halloween where I discuss an encounter in one of these things, but I didn't really know that's what it was. And this is why I find the phrase black mass very interesting. I'll very briefly tell you what happened here. You can go listen to the full story on that other episode, but It was a nice day. We just had lunch. Me and my husband were in the kitchen. This was in our old house that we used to live in. I remember my husband was sitting at the kitchen table and I was putting the lunch stuff away. You know how you walk around, putting things back, you're still having your conversation. So I'm just walking about, putting things back in the cupboards, and I took some stuff back to put in the fridge. And I opened the fridge door and I did this flinch. And you know when you open a fridge and something hasn't been put back right and it falls out and your hands go up and you're trying to protect your face. That's what I did. And I was waiting for the clatter of whatever jar or tub had fallen out, but there was no clatter. And that's when I thought, well, that's weird. I saw something fall out the fridge, but nothing's on the floor. And I turned round to my husband and his face was an absolute picture. His eyes were so wide. And I said to him, did you just see that? And he just looked and he said, what the hell was that? He saw the same thing I saw. This black mass. I used to call it a black blob, a shadow, black shadowy blob. I don't know, but black mass, I like that term because that really does describe it. It leapt out the fridge. I want to say at me, but maybe just more in my direction, and then just disappeared. I didn't feel anything. I didn't hear anything. You know, when people say they have this overwhelming sense of dread and fear, I didn't get that at all. Just this thing jumped out. I thought something was going to fall on the floor, put my hands up, and I kind of, don't hit me kind of thing. And it disappeared. That was weird, but we just kind of brushed it off because we believe in a lot of this stuff. So to us, it's like, okay, it happened, accept it, move on with your life. Then we moved to this house where we are now, and I haven't discussed this on the podcast yet. So I'll share a couple of examples with you. My husband and I have both experienced shadow beings in this house more than once. I've been sitting at the computer and the door's been open. I haven't been recording, maybe just reading, and as the door's open, the crack of the door, you can see when somebody goes past it. I have seen somebody go past it and I've gone out to check because that's the way I am. There's nobody there. I've sat on the sofa, either reading or trying to watch a video or whatever, and I have seen a shadow being peek round the door. And again, I described this earlier where you see it out the periphery, you see it out the corner of your eye, and you know when somebody is looking round the door at you. And when you just glance over the door, you see this dart back, I've been seen, and it darts back out the way again. Now, for the skeptics who say it's imagination, people must have one hell of an imagination to keep seeing these things over and over again, and especially when the same thing is seen by two people at the same time. Another one that I did see, I was in bed reading, and I actually thought this was kind of cute, which is why I don't go along with they're all malevolent, they're all evil, and they're all demonic theories. I felt this was quite cute. I was sitting in my bed, like I said, reading my book, and I saw, again, periphery, but, on an eye test to check your periphery. I had mine done a couple of weeks ago. My periphery vision is excellent. I saw a small, shadowy figure, for want of a better explanation, kind of peer round at me from the foot of my bed. And when I looked up, again, darted back as if frightened that it had been seen. And I did say out loud, yeah, I've seen you. I was almost laughing. I said, it's okay, I've seen you, it's okay, but you have to stop doing these kind of things. I don't really like it. And I didn't have it happen again, but I did not have this sense of dread. Again, I just didn't have that. My husband has seen a lot of these things. He does not like it. He doesn't like it one bit, actually. He doesn't like any of this stuff. I have, therefore, on his behalf, now I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't know if this is the right thing, but I have gone around the house saying, look, thanks for visiting. Kind of thing, and I felt stupid doing it, I will confess that. Thanks for visiting, but we don't want you to come here anymore, okay? You have to go somewhere else now. We've seen you, thank you, but please don't do it anymore. Now, for me personally, it's been pretty quiet. I haven't tried to see anything. I don't really want to see anything. My husband doesn't talk about these things unless I really probe, which I'm not doing. So I'm hoping all is now quiet. So to skeptics who say it's sleep paralysis. I was awake for every single one. Touch wood, I haven't had the really scary one where it's pressing down on your chest or trying to choke you. I don't want that. Thank you very much. I was not on drugs. Neither was my husband. We weren't drinking. We weren't sleep deprived or any of these things the skeptics will tell you. Other than that, I don't know what they are. I can't give you an explanation. I can only tell you what I've seen and what I've experienced. You can believe it or not. And it's funny because I never used to discuss these things with anybody. I wouldn't bring it up. And now I'm at the stage where I think, I don't care if people believe it. I don't care what people think. My God, if you had told me 18 months ago that I would be doing a podcast telling people openly that I've seen shadow beings more than once. I saw a shimmer being once. I did describe that in a previous episode. A kind of ghost experiences. And I say that as, hearing things or feeling things. I've described that before. If you'd said that to me 18 months ago that I would be openly discussing this, I would have laughed in your face. How we change, don't we? I really don't care what people think anymore. And of all these things that happened, I didn't think there was anything major about it until I started doing this research, and I thought, wait a minute, this is a thing? People see these things? It's not just us? I don't know. The whole cryptid world has opened up to me in the last year. I listen to a lot of other podcasts about it. There's just something about this topic that interests me, and knowing now that I'm not the only one, or it's not just me and my husband, I find it comforting. But when I hear these reports, these so-called experts saying that everything's demonic and everything's evil, and I just think, no, it's not. It really isn't. I don't know if it was an angel. I don't know if there was meant to be a message I was picking up. I don't know. But what I do know is that these so-called experts, they haven't a clue what they're talking about. In my opinion. That is just my opinion. So there you have it, folks. Shadow beings. Nobody has got a clear-cut answer. Nobody knows exactly what they are, why they're here, why they don't really want to be seen. Some seem to hang about a little longer than others, but generally they don't want to be seen. We don't know. It just happens. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. Please, like I said, leave me a nice review, spread the joy, but also leave me a comment. Have you experienced shadow beings? I really would be interested in knowing if anybody else out there who listens to this podcast has experienced the same sort of thing. That I would like to know. So that is it for this week, folks. Please check out the links below. They will take you to all sorts of magical and wonderful places, like my blog, where I put things up Monday to Friday, so there is bound to be something there that will interest you. Spread the word, let other people know about the podcast, check out all the links, and until next time, you take care of your wee self.